3 children were being sold for $5. No names, no past. Just sacks on their heads and rope around their wrists. The crowd laughed. The sheriff looked away. Then he rode in. Dust on his boots, iron in his eyes. Jericho Black. A gunslinger feared across 7 counties. And without saying a word, he pulled out his revolver and changed everything. They called him a killer, a legend, a bastard with no heart. But when the youngest orphan looked up and asked, "Are you my daddy?" even a man like Jericho had to stop breathing for a moment. The town of Dustvale didn't welcome strangers. It watched them. It let the wind size them up first. Then the creak of a saloon door. Then silence. Always silence. So when Jericho Black rode in that July morning alone and upright like a nail in a pine coffin, nobody said a word. They just stared. Even the preacher paused mid-sermon as the rider passed the open church window. He looked like something out of a tale folks swore wasn't true. Hat low dust thick on his boots, a revolver that caught sunlight like a blade dipped in memory. He wasn't there for salvation. Only a horseshoe. But fate, as it often does, waited for the broken-hearted to blink. At the center of town, where a shade tree once stood before the drought killed it, 3 children stood on a raised crate, heads covered in burlap, hands bound behind their backs. A sign nailed to the front read, 3 for $5, no refunds. Jericho stopped. His horse grunted and kicked once unsettled. He didn't dismount. Not yet. He watched. The crowd gathered like flies. The sheriff leaned on a porch rail, chewing tobacco and shame in equal measure. A woman crossed the street without looking. People had learned not to look. The auctioneer was a stout man with grease on his collar and a grin carved out of pure rot. Strong boys. Silent. Don't eat much. You won't find a better deal in 3 counties. The crowd chuckled. Jericho blinked once, just once. And then the smallest of the 3 children, no more than 6, turned her head toward the sound of his horse and asked in the tiniest, clearest voice, "Are you my daddy?" Jericho's boot hit the ground like thunder. He walked forward slow, deliberate, the kind of slow that meant danger. The crowd parted. The auctioneer puffed up, mistaking the silence for permission. "Sir, you look like a man who knows value. $5 for all 3. You can break 'em in however you see fit. Don't matter to me." The rest of his sentence was swallowed by the sound of a gun being cocked. Jericho didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You just said you'd sell them like animals," he said, eyes fixed on the man's mouth like it might grow fangs. "You sure you know what that means for you? Ooh, ooh, ooh." "Wait now, I bang." The sign exploded into splinters at the man's feet. Women screamed. The sheriff didn't move. Jericho stepped closer. "Tell me something," he said low and measured. "What kind of man puts a price on a child and still sleeps through the night?" The auctioneer stammered, sweat pouring. Jericho didn't blink. Then he turned to the children. With rough hands, he cut the rope, pulled the sacks off their heads one by one. The oldest boy flinched but didn't cry. The middle one looked past Jericho like his soul had long left. And the girl just looked up at him and whispered again, "You sure you're not my daddy?" Jericho's jaw twitched. He wasn't sure of anything just then. He knelt, took her face in his hands. "No, little one," he said softly, "but maybe I'm close enough." He stood, hoisted her into the saddle like she was made of feathers and smoke. Nodded to the boys. You coming or not, they didn't ask questions, they just followed. The sheriff stepped forward at last. But not to stop him. "They'll come after you," the sheriff said. "Then they'll bleed for the trouble," Jericho replied. He didn't look back as he rode out. The girl clung to his coat. Not afraid. Just holding. The way someone holds hope when it's still too new to name. That night they camped under an oak tree near Devil's Pass. The boys slept light twitching at every owl. Jericho sat near the fire cleaning his revolver like it was an old prayer. The girl sat beside him, eyes shining with something he couldn't name. Mama said if something happened, she whispered that maybe a man named Jericho Black would find me. His hands froze. She said you got a ghost inside you, but you ain't mean. He said nothing. Is it true, she asked, that you've killed more men than days in a month? Jericho looked at her, shadows flickering across his face, like guilt in motion. I don't count the dead, he said. I count the ones I didn't save. Long after the fire dimmed, Jericho sat staring at the stitched cloth in his hand. A handkerchief, his name sewn in blue thread. The girl's mother's handwriting. He hadn't seen that name in over 6 years. Back then he'd ridden out at dawn, saying it was safer, that she'd be better without him. He told himself the world was no place for soft things. But tonight, beside 3 silent children and a fire crackling like bones under snow, he wondered, what if she'd been right to believe in him after all? He looked down at the girl curled in his coat, finally asleep. Then he whispered something so soft, the wind almost swallowed it. Maybe it's time I believe in something too. He fed the fire one more log. And for the first time in years he stayed awake, not to keep the world out, but to keep someone safe within. The square was dusty that morning, the kind of dust that settled deep in the lungs and stayed there. Jericho Black dismounted, slow boots hitting the ground like thunder, too tired to finish its roll. He tied his horse to the post outside the blacksmith's and started down the main stretch of Dust Vale, where the air always smelled like iron and dry rot. He wasn't looking for trouble. He never had to. But trouble had a way of gathering where men stopped asking questions. There was a crowd. And a sign. Painted by hand in crooked letters. 3 for $5, no returns. They stood still, heads covered in burlap, the kind that once held potatoes. Small shoulders, bony knees, and ropes cinched hard around their wrists like they were livestock. Jericho narrowed his eyes. The crowd chuckled. One man in a preacher's collar wiped sweat from his brow and turned away. A woman nudged her child along, said, "Don't look, Tommy." And Tommy didn't. But Jericho did. He stepped into the circle like smoke curling into a flame. The auctioneer grinned, too fast, too wide. "Well now, if it ain't Mr. Black. Didn't know you were still alive. You in the market for a pair of hands, maybe 3. Jericho didn't answer. His gaze fell to the smallest figure, barely up to his belt. The girl's sack had slipped a little, just enough to show a soft brown cheek and a streak of dried blood on her temple. Then he heard her. Not loud, not scared, just a whisper that cut like a blade through years of silence. "Are you my daddy?" The world blinked. Jericho's jaw locked. His hand didn't twitch, but his fingers curled like they knew what came next. The auctioneer laughed, nervous now. "Kids say all kinds of nonsense. Ain't even hers, probably. Or maybe she's yours, Jericho. You got a dozen running around, I reckon." He turned to the crowd like it was a joke worth selling. $5, folks, for all 3. Cheaper than whiskey, and don't piss in the fire." Jericho reached into his coat. The crowd stilled. But it wasn't a coin purse that came out. It was a Colt. He raised it slow, steady. No shake, no shout, just the hum of justice tuning itself in his bones. Then he pulled the trigger. The sign exploded in splinters. The sack on the smallest child's head flinched, but didn't fall. The auctioneer dropped to his knees with both hands up, eyes wide. "Now hold on." Jericho stepped forward, close enough to smell the fear coming off the man like vinegar. $5, Jericho said, his voice like gravel over cold steel. "For children. They ain't mine, I'm just the middleman. You price people like pork." Jericho cut in. "What's the price for your spine?" I swear. Jericho turned. 3 shots cracked the air. Ropes snapped. The sacks dropped. A boy with bruised eyes, another with cracked lips, and the girl, her face still tilted upward like she'd known all along he'd come. He holstered the gun. Not quick, not slow, final. Then he knelt. She didn't run. Just looked at him and said, "You got the same eyes as Mama's picture." His chest didn't rise, didn't fall, but something in his face wavered like smoke pulled back from a dying flame. He took off his hat. "I ain't nobody's father," he said quietly. The girl nodded, almost as if she understood. "I know," she whispered, "but maybe you could be." From behind him, the auctioneer croaked, That's theft. You didn't pay. Jericho stood turned and walked toward him. You think money buys redemption? His voice was colder now. You think $5 fixes what you did to them? They're orphans and got no papers. They got names. The man blinked. No, they do now, Jericho said. Then he tossed the man a single silver coin, not because he had to, but because mercy sometimes was heavier than bullets. Take this, he growled, and buy yourself a conscience. The man didn't move, didn't speak. He just stared as Jericho gathered the children and led them through the stunned crowd, through silence, through judgment, through the town that had sold its soul one child at a time. As he mounted his horse and lifted the smallest girl up behind him, one of the boys shoulder-guarded looked up. You're gonna leave us somewhere, ain't you? Jericho didn't answer right away. Then he said, without looking back, I leave horses, not children. That night, under a sky too wide for sorrow, Jericho lit a fire in the basin below the ridge. The children slept close, huddled in worn blankets he'd pulled from his saddlebag. He didn't sleep. He sat with the colt across his lap and the question still ringing in his ears. Are you my daddy? And somewhere between the crackle of flame and the hush of stars, he whispered a truth he'd never said aloud. Lord, if there's still a place for men like me, let it be near someone who calls me something besides monster. Then he reached into his coat pocket, pulled out an old handkerchief. Frayed, faded, but still stitched with thread the color of cornflower blue. One word sewn by a woman long gone, Jericho. The girl had carried it, and now so would he, not because he was ready, but because maybe, just maybe, she was. The wind blew hard that night, as if it had somewhere to go. Jericho Black sat beside the fire with a tin cup of coffee in one hand, and a colt resting silent by his boot. The children had eaten and fallen asleep in the loft above the barn, huddled in borrowed blankets. He hadn't said a word since they got here. The ranch was still. No coyotes tonight, no whippoorwills. Only the distant groan of pines in the wind and the quiet sound of Sadie breathing the little one, her face turned toward the heat. He didn't know why he brought them. Maybe it was the girl's voice. Maybe it was the way the tallest boy flinched like a broken horse. Or maybe it was just that sign 3 for 5 and something old and angry in him refused to let that go. He didn't want to be a hero. Hell, he didn't want to be anything. As he leaned forward to stoke the fire, a small square of cloth tumbled from the inside of Sadie's coat. At first, he thought it was a rag, but when the flames caught it just right, he saw the edge was stitched with thread, old, worn and faded, but still legible. J. Black. His chest went cold. He reached for it like a man who wasn't sure if he wanted to know the answer. The cloth was soft, smelled of lavender and smoke. The stitches were uneven, like they'd been made by someone young or trembling. He turned to the girl, barely breathing in her sleep. Her face looked familiar now, not in the way of memory, but in the way of ache. He folded the cloth, careful like it might tear if he breathed wrong. Then he stood, walked out into the night, and sat on the porch rail with his back to the wind. Morning came in pale gold. The sun rose slow, dragging the frost from the grass and warming the side of the barn. Jericho didn't sleep, just watched the land. Sadie woke first. She came out barefoot, hair tangled, her little hands clutching the edge of her too big coat. He didn't look at her. Where'd you get that cloth? He asked, voice low, steady. She blinked up at him, not afraid. Mama made it, she said. Said if anything ever happened to her, I should find a man named Jericho Black. Said he'd know what to do. He turned to her, slow. Your mama have a name? She nodded. June Whitmore. She used to hum real soft at night, even when she cried. His breath caught. A flicker passed through his face, something too quick to name. He remembered a woman with hair like October and hands that never shook, even when she held a pistol to his chest and said, "Don't love me if you're gonna leave." He left anyway. Where is she now? He asked, already knowing. Sadie looked down, her thumb pressed into the cloth in her pocket. She coughed for days. Then she stopped. Jericho looked away. Later that morning, he saddled his horse without a word. and rode into town. He didn't take the kids. He didn't take the gun either. Just a photograph he hadn't looked at in 6 years. The general store was quiet. He walked past the bags of flour and the bolts of cloth and dropped the photo in front of the storekeeper. "Ever seen her?" The man squinted. "That's June Whitmore, ain't it? She came through last spring. Asked about you." Jericho's jaw tightened. "She say anything else?" "Only that she'd trade everything she had to find you. Didn't have much left. Just that girl." The storekeeper leaned in. "She died in the churchyard. Quiet. No one claimed her." "I figured." "You figured right," Jericho said and left. Back at the ranch, Beck was chopping wood with too much force. Harris watched the hens like they might run, and Sadie sat on the porch braiding a piece of string, her little face turned toward the hills. Jericho unsaddled slow. He wasn't a man built for softness. His hands had held too many triggers, his eyes had watched too many fall. But when Sadie ran up to him and slipped her hand in his, he didn't pull away. He knelt. "Your mama," he said, "was the only good thing I ever walked away from." Sadie looked up. "Did she hate you?" He swallowed. "No, but I reckon she should've." There was a pause. Just the sound of chickens clucking and the wind dragging its fingers through the grass. "She said you were stubborn," Sadie whispered. Jericho gave a low laugh. "She said worse." Sadie looked at him with eyes too old for her age. "You gonna leave us too?" He didn't answer right away. Just pulled the cloth from his coat, unfolded it slow. "She made this for me once. Said if I ever got lost, it'd help me remember who I was." He handed it back to her. "Guess it worked," he said, "'cause now I remember." That night, Jericho set an extra place at the table. The boys didn't ask why. He sat with them, passed the bread, cut the meat. When Sadie reached for the cloth and set it beside her cup like a prayer, Jericho didn't look away. He raised his cup. "To those who go, and to those who stay." Beck raised his. Harris, too. Sadie looked at him. "Does this mean you're staying?" Jericho nodded once, rough and quiet. "It means I ain't running anymore." And across the table, for the first time in a long time, he felt seen, not feared, not remembered, but seen. And somehow that was enough, even for a man like Jericho Black. The morning came cold, not from weather, but from something that clung to the walls like a breath held too long. Jericho Black stood alone on the porch, nursing a chipped mug of black coffee that had long gone cold. The kids were inside still sleeping, at least he hoped so. He wasn't good with silence, not this kind. Not the kind that made him remember things he spent most of his life trying to forget. The girl Sadie had stopped calling him Daddy out loud, but the way she looked at him over her shoulder, as if waiting for him to soften, to say something back that was worse than the word. He wasn't a father, never claimed to be. And he wasn't about to start lying to a little girl just because she needed something he didn't have. Inside, the boys were moving about now. Beck was stacking wood. Harris had that notebook again, scribbling like he could rewrite the past if he just got the spelling right. Jericho didn't knock. He walked in like he owned the place, because he did. He built this cabin with his own hands, with boards older than most folks' regrets. "Fire's out," Beck muttered. Jericho didn't answer. He knelt, added kindling, struck flint. Flames answered like they feared him. "Breakfast?" Harris asked halfway, between offering and checking if Jericho was in the mood to throw something. "Y'all got hands, don't you?" Jericho said flatly. That was the thing about the man. He didn't shout. He didn't plead. He just existed like a hard truth no one wanted to face. Beck rolled his eyes, but he moved toward the cupboard. "Guess we're fathers now, huh?" he muttered to Harris. Jericho heard it. He always heard the quiet things, the things meant to sting but not draw blood. He turned slowly, not angry, just cracked. "You know what makes a father," he said, voice low. "It ain't breakfast, ain't patching shoes or killing wolves. It's what's left when the fire dies out and there's nothing left but the crying." Beck looked at him, then really looked. "Then what are you?" Jericho didn't blink. A man who got real good at leaving before the crying started. Silence. Sadie was in the doorway, bare feet, mess of curls. Her eyes were dark hollows under lashes too long for sorrow. "You left my mama, didn't you?" she asked softly. Jericho turned his back to her. "She told me you were strong and loud and fast with a gun, but never brave enough to stay." He swallowed. It sounded like gravel. "I ain't gonna say I'm sorry, girl. Sorry don't stitch what's already torn." "I don't want sorry," she said. "I want to know why." Jericho lowered himself into his old chair, like his knees finally remembered they belonged to a man who carried too much. "She was the only good thing I ever touched." He began, voice rough, like he hated every word. "And I thought if I stayed, it'd ruin her too." Sadie crossed the floor, stood in front of him just out of reach. She cried every night. Not loud, just quiet, like she didn't want me to know. He didn't lift his eyes. And when she got sick, she said, "Find Jericho. He'll know what to do." Sadie paused, but she was wrong. He flinched. "Because you don't know what to do with anything that loves you, do you?" The coffee mug cracked in his grip. From outside hooves, fast, angry. Jericho stood, and in the same breath the front door burst open. A man in a long gray coat, boots dusted in blood, and rode. "Black," he spat. "Thought I'd find you hiding behind children." Jericho didn't move. "And I thought you'd be dead by now, Silas." The man smirked. His eye twitched. "You still got my brother's blood on your boots. You still selling kids like cattle." Sadie backed toward the fireplace. Silas tossed a paper on the floor. "Court order. You stole property. I'm here to reclaim it." Harris stepped forward. "We ain't property." Silas laughed bitter. "Boy, you're whatever we say you are in this state. Ain't no one coming to save you." Jericho's voice dropped to a hush. "They don't need saving. They got me." Silas drew his gun. Jericho moved first. One shot, straight through the coat. Silas collapsed like a pile of lies. No drama, no echo. Just a man who'd been walking too long with blood on his name, finally doing something clean. Beck ran to the window. Others might come. Jericho holstered the gun. Turned to Sadie. "I ain't never been what your mama wanted me to be." She stepped forward. "No, but maybe you're what I need you to be now." He looked down at her, really looked, and for once didn't see the woman he ran from, but the child left behind. His voice cracked. "You want me to try?" Sadie nodded. He knelt slowly, opened his arms. Not wide, not proud, just enough. She stepped into them, and the fire, though it flickered low, never went out. The fire had burned low, more glow than flame, now casting long, soft shadows on the log walls. Jericho sat still in the rocker boots, planted wide arms, crossed tight over his chest. Outside, the wind whistled through the pines like something lost, trying to come home. The kids were asleep, at least they looked it. Beck's hand still clutched the blade he kept under his pillow. Harris snored, but only with one eye closed. And little Sadie. Sadie curled herself so small by the hearth that she looked like a breath someone had forgotten to exhale. Jericho hadn't moved in over an hour. Just watched the door. He'd heard them before sunset. Hooves quiet and deliberate out near the edge of the ridge. Not many folks knew about this trail. Fewer still had reason to come calling without warning. But wolves always found blood when the wind shifted. At the first knock, 3 slow, deliberate raps, she didn't flinch. He just stood slow and heavy and reached for the rifle resting by the door like an old friend. Jericho Black, came the voice outside, slick and smiling. "Heard you've taken up babysitting." Jericho opened the door just wide enough to see the man. Dressed in a clean duster, boots polished like Lie's silver star hanging from his chest, though no town had deputized that badge in years. "I don't recall inviting ghosts," Jericho said. The man grinned. He had teeth like ice chips. "Name's Hollis Train." "You got something belongs to me." Jericho didn't blink. "If you mean the children, they don't belong to no one." Hollis chuckled low. "That's cute. Noble too. But let's not pretend. You walked off with merchandise. That girl's got a price on her head. So do her brothers. And you," he tilted his head. "You're worth more dead than noble." From inside, Sadie's voice floated out like a prayer that hadn't learned to be loud yet. Is it him? Jericho didn't look back. His voice was flat. Go back to bed, sweetheart. But she didn't. She came to the doorway and stood behind him, her small hand finding the back of his coat. Hollis' grin turned into something meaner. See, even the brat knows me. She remembers. Don't you, sugar? Remember the cellar, the rope. You cried like a cat. Sadie didn't speak, but her fingers curled into Jericho's coat so tight it left little moons in the wool. Jericho stepped forward. He'll say this once, he said, voice low, heavy as stormlight. You take another breath about that cellar and he'll return the favor in lead. Hollis shrugged. Suit yourself. But the men behind me ain't here to negotiate. They're here to collect. You got till sunup to turn 'em over, or we take 'em and burn what's left. He tipped his hat like a man offering a dance, then turned and disappeared into the tree line. Jericho closed the door without a sound. Sadie whispered, he was the one. I know. I used to scream for Mama. I know that too. He crouched beside her, placed a hand gently on her back. You won't scream tonight, Sadie. I swear, they didn't sleep. He told Harris to load every round they had. Beck set snares along the ridge, silent as frost. Jericho carried Sadie to the cellar and lit the lantern. Not to hide her, just so she'd know she wasn't going back into the dark alone. At sunrise they came. 5 men on horseback rifles, ready arrogance riding beside them. Hollis led. Jericho stood alone out front, coat open, rifle across his arms. You really gonna die for him? Hollis asked, voice too calm for a man with his hand on a trigger. Jericho tilted his head. You ever lost a child? Hollis blinked. No. Then you won't understand what it's like to find one. The first shot came from Beck's perch and the tree hit one man clean through the shoulder. Chaos cracked loose. The horses reared. Gunfire sprayed like rain. But Jericho didn't shoot to kill. He aimed low, broke knees, shattered ribs. He was making a statement, not a body count. When Hollis finally stood alone, weapon shaking, blood soaking his side, Jericho walked toward him slow. You call yourself a traitor, he said, but you ain't traded for a soul your whole damn life. Hollis spit blood. They ain't yours. Jericho raised his rifle one last time, then paused. Maybe not, he said, but they ain't yours either. He lowered the gun and turned to the kids who come out of hiding, silent, watching. Beck, Jericho said without looking back. Tie him. Leave him for the marshal. Let the law decide what to do with a man who sells children. Beck didn't ask twice. Later that night, as they cleaned the wounds and patched the porch, Sadie sat beside Jericho, her chin on her knees. You didn't kill him, she said. No. Why? He looked up at the stars. Because someday you'll want to live in a world where good men don't kill just because they're angry. She was quiet a long time. Then whispered, Are you a good man? Jericho looked at her. Really looked. I'm trying, sweetheart, he said. I'm trying real hard. And for the first time since she called him Daddy under that auction sign, Sadie reached out wordless and took his hand. They didn't say more. They didn't need to. The wind came down off the ridge like it had unfinished business. Jericho stood on the porch with a tin cup gone cold in his hands, watching the tree line. Something was wrong. The pine needles shifted in a rhythm that wasn't natural. Not wind, not deer. He knew that rhythm. He'd ridden with it once long ago when he was someone else before he'd buried that name under whiskey and gunpowder and a woman's goodbye. Sadie was inside, humming, braiding her doll's yarn hair by firelight. Beck was chopping kindling with the concentration of a boy pretending not to need guidance. Harris was reading a tattered dime novel like it held instructions for manhood. And Jericho was remembering the smell of rope burns and kerosene. Then came the hoofbeats. They didn't rush. They sauntered, confident, the kind of sound that didn't beg for permission. Jericho set the cup down slow and picked up the rifle. By the time the rider emerged, dust clinging to his collar and grin stretched too wide, Jericho was already halfway down the steps. Been a long trail, the man called. And yet here I am, right where I said I'd find you. Jericho's jaw didn't move, but his eyes narrowed like gun barrels. Caleb. Caleb Black tipped his hat, revealing a face only slightly worn by time. Same smirk, same cold stare. Half-brother. Whole devil. Didn't think you'd recognize me with all this virtue you're cultivating out here. He nodded toward the house. Heard you got yourself some strays. Jericho didn't flinch. You here for a reason? He asked. Caleb chuckled. I come with an offer. Wanted wager you can't afford to ignore. Jericho cocked his head. Caleb leaned closer, his voice turning low and oily. There's a man south of Tucson. Pays handsomely for certain types of labor, especially the quiet kind. Kids mostly. Ones with soft eyes and no one asking questions. Jericho's blood stilled. I figured Caleb continued, if you're already collecting them, why not cash in beats pretending you're a saint? You came all this way, Jericho said softly, to sell children to offer you a cut. Caleb corrected. Family looking out for family. Jericho stepped back like the words had stung worse than a bullet. You think blood makes us family? Caleb laughed. We bled together once, and you left me rotting in that border cell. You sold a girl for whiskey and left her in a ditch, Jericho growled. And you think playing daddy now makes you clean? The screen door creaked. Sadie stood barefoot on the porch, braid undone, doll in hand. Her eyes locked onto Caleb, then back to Jericho. Caleb smiled like a rattlesnake. Is that the one? He asked. The one that calls you Daddy? Jericho's voice was gravel. Leave, or what? Caleb sneered. You gonna shoot your own kin? Jericho didn't answer. He raised the rifle slow and sure. Get off my land. But Caleb wasn't done. You think this is over? He spat. You think a shack and a few broken kids make you holy? You're still the boy who ran when it mattered. Sadie's grip on her doll tightened. Jericho didn't look at her, he looked through Caleb, like a man staring down the ghosts in his own soul. You're right, he said. I ran. The admission was quiet, like a thread snapped. But I ain't running anymore. Caleb's smirk faltered. That's supposed to scare me. No, Jericho said. It's supposed to bury you. And he pulled the trigger. The bullet didn't kill Caleb, but it knocked the hat clean off his head and split the bark beside his cheek. The man went pale. Truly pale. I said, Jericho repeated, stepping closer. Leave. Caleb stumbled backward, climbed on his horse with hands that shook more than pride allowed. Before riding off, he hissed, You'll regret this, brother. Jericho watched him go. Dust swallowed his shadow. The porch behind him creaked again. Sadie whispered, You knew him. Jericho turned, took a long breath, and nodded. He hurt people, didn't he? Jericho knelt in the dirt eye level with her. He didn't speak right away. Just looked at her, this little miracle with dirt on her knees and a question in her eyes. I knew a man once, he said slowly, like drawing a memory from a wound, who thought the world owed him something. He blamed everyone for the pain he made with his own hands. Was he your brother? She asked. Jericho looked at her doll, its stitched smile, and nodded again. In blood, but not in heart. Sadie reached out, touched his calloused hand. You didn't let him take us, she whispered. Jericho blinked. No, he said. I didn't. She hugged him. No words, just two arms around a man who had killed and cursed and come back from places darker than night. He didn't hug her back, not right away. He just let it happen. Let it in. Then, after a long silence, he whispered so low she almost missed it. I didn't save you, Sadie. You saved me first. Inside, the fire crackled. Beck chopped slower, watching through the window. Harris closed the dime novel and set it down. The night came quiet and long. Jericho sat on the porch long after the girl had gone to sleep, the stars like nailheads in the ceiling of heaven. He didn't drink that night, didn't polish his guns. He just sat still, listening to the house breathe. And for the first time in 20 years, he felt something stay. The poster was nailed crooked to the old cottonwood outside Clary's Mercantile. It fluttered when the breeze pushed down from the ridge like it didn't want to be read. But folks stopped anyway. Wanted dead or alive, Jericho Black. Reward 500 armed, dangerous. Last seen with 3 stolen miners. They called them stolen. The same 3 kids who'd been sold like cattle a week earlier for $5 dirty and a bottle of warm gin. Jericho stood across the street, the brim of his hat tipped low. He didn't flinch when he saw his name. He just chewed the last of a matchstick and whispered, "Ain't the first time they wanted me hung, but this time stings a little different." He left town before dusk, riding with the sun behind him and the weight of 3 small shadows waiting back at the cabin. Sadie had drawn him a picture that morning, 4 stick figures and a dog with ears too big. One figure was taller, wearing a hat. Shed written beneath it in crooked letters, "My dad, sort of." He folded it into his coat pocket like it was a contract. By nightfall, the bounty hunters came. Not to the cabino, not yet. They weren't fools. First, they spread like oil through the nearby towns, asking questions with silver tongues and loaded rifles. The blacksmith in Ridgepoint was the first to talk. Not because he wanted to, but because he owed the sheriff too many favors and had 2 boys of his own. "He came in last week." The blacksmith muttered, voice like iron dust. "Didn't hurt no one. Had kids with him, sure, but they looked better off than half the town's children." The bounty man, tall and gray-eyed, snorted. "You folks always defend men like him until there's blood on your stoop and fire in your barn." He dropped a silver coin on the counter like it was an insult. Back at the cabin, the wind rolled low and steady. Beck had been chopping wood too long. Harris was sewing a rip in his coat. Sadie was quiet, too quiet. Jericho was staring into the fire boots, untied eyes tracing flames like old regrets. "You gonna tell us why your name's on a poster now?" Beck asked. Jericho didn't look up. "You already know why," he said softly. "'Cause you did what no one else dared," Harris offered. "No," Jericho replied, "'cause I did it without permission." Silence fell like dust over a coffin. 3 nights later, they came to take him. Not with torches and pitchforks. Not with justice in their voices. No, they came in silence. Professionals. Jericho heard the click of a boot heel on stone before he smelled tobacco on the wind. He stepped onto the porch, shotgun in hand, not raised, not lowered. The man at the front was clean. Too clean. Black gloves vest, pressed sharp, a badge that looked more like theater than law. "Jericho Black," he said, voice calm like poison in tea. "By order of County Judge Malvern, you are under arrest for child abduction, murder of a licensed trader, and theft of property." Jericho laughed once, bitter. "Which part of that's worth dying for?" "All of it," the man said without blinking. Jericho stepped off the porch. Behind him, Beck stood in the doorway. Harris had his hand on Sadie's shoulder. "They ain't property," Jericho said low. "They're children, with bruises and names and dreams I ain't fit to carry." The man shrugged. "Maybe, but the law says otherwise, and the law's got bullets." They shackled him and rode through town like it meant something. Jericho didn't speak until they passed the same cottonwood where his name still hung flapping like shame. "You ever wonder what kind of man writes a law that lets kids be sold but not saved?" he asked, voice like gravel in rain. The gray-eyed man didn't answer. He just looked forward, jaw tight. The jail was cold. The kind that crept into your bones and stayed. The sheriff was a younger man, maybe 30, beard too, clean eyes too dull. "You look disappointed," Jericho muttered from his cell. "Was expectin' someone more monstrous. I was expectin' someone quieter," the sheriff replied. The trial was scheduled fast, too fast. Word had spread and the judge wanted things handled, clean, official. But something happened. People began showing up, not just townsfolk, ranch hands, widows, schoolmarms, a preacher, even the blacksmith, and then Harris. He stepped into that courtroom with boots too big and a shirt too tight, and he looked that judge dead in the eye. "Jericho didn't steal us," he said. "He saved us." From men the law wouldn't touch. From silence, the town pretended not to hear. The judge shifted in his chair. "Boy, this isn't your place. It became my place the minute you tried to hang the only man who ever gave a damn." Beck followed, stood behind Harris like a brother made by fire and blood. "He gave me a hammer, sir. Told me if I wanted to fix what's broken, I'd better learn how. That's more than any preacher or teacher or so-called father ever did." Sadie, trembling, walked last. No speech, no fuss. Just lifted the picture she drew. "Has not my dad," she whispered, "but he's mine." The judge stared a long while, then dropped the gavel. Charges dismissed. That night, Jericho sat by the fire again, kids asleep nearby. He reached into his coat, pulled out Sadie's drawing, looked at it in the lantern light. He didn't cry. He just nodded once and whispered like a man who'd buried too many names. "I reckon maybe this time I did right." The wind outside carried no anger that night, just pine and ash, and a promise that maybe, just maybe, the worst was over. The courthouse in Bitteridge had warped wood floors that creaked with every step like they remembered too much. The sun through the tall windows was harsh and unkind, slicing through dust like it wanted the truth but wasn't patient enough to wait for it. Jericho Black sat in chains. They hadn't even bothered to clean the dried blood off his collar. His hat, that old black thing with the bullet nick in the brim, rested on the bench beside him like a ghost too stubborn to leave. Across the room, townsfolk filled the pews whispering behind gloved hands. The judge, a narrow man named Chambers, peered down like a buzzard on a fence post. He tapped his gavel once, not for order, just to remind the room who was allowed to speak. Jericho Black, the clerk, read, "Charged with abduction of minors, aggravated assault, illegal use of a firearm, and resisting apprehension." "How do you plead?" Jericho looked up slowly. His eyes weren't pleading. They never had been. "I plead tired," he said. Some in the room chuckled, others frowned. A boy near the back Beck sat upright. Harris beside him, Sadie in between her dress too clean, her hands too still. The prosecutor rose. A young man with slicked hair and a voice too polished for the dust outside. "Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is not a misunderstood hero. He is not a savior of children. He is a vigilante, a killer. A man who took the law into his own hands and endangered 3 vulnerable minors who may or may not have ever belonged to him." He turned toward the jury. He didn't rescue them. He stole them. And when the law came calling, he answered with bullets. Jericho said nothing, just scratched at a scab on his knuckle. Then they called Beck. The boy walked to the front, stiff but unshaking. His boots echoed small but sure. "State your name, son," the judge said. "Beck. Just Beck. How do you know the defendant? He pulled a gun on the man who was selling us." The courtroom hushed. "So you admit he took you without proper guardianship?" Beck looked up. "No, sir. He took us from hell." A woman gasped softly. The prosecutor cleared his throat. "Were you afraid of him?" Beck glanced at Jericho. The gunslinger's jaw was set like stone. "No," Beck said. "I was afraid of everyone but him." Sadie was next. Tiny steps, big eyes. Her voice trembled like spring branches in wind. "Do you know this man?" the prosecutor asked. She nodded. "Who is he to you?" She paused, turned to look at Jericho. Her voice, when it came, was a whisper that cracked open the room. "As the only man who ever stayed." Even the judge leaned back at that. They brought in the sheriff next to man who hated Jericho on principle. "You said he resisted arrest," the prosecutor prompted. "He did," the sheriff said, "and I am still walking funny from it." Laughter. "But I'll tell you this, he could have shot me." He didn't. The prosecutor's face twitched. "So you're defending him?" "No," the sheriff said. "I'm just telling the truth." When it was time for Jericho to speak, he stood. Slowly, like every word was a fence he had to climb over. "I won't say I'm a good man. I've done things I don't talk about even to the dead." He looked at the jury, then at Sadie. "But I've never once sold a child, or let one sleep cold if I had a blanket to give. I never beat one into silence, and I never told a little girl she was nothing just 'cause the world forgot her name." He took a breath. "Maybe I'm not their father, but tell me this." His voice lowered, roughened with something older than guilt. "What does it say about this town that you'd rather jail the man who held them close than the ones who tied them up and sold them cheap like horses too thin to pull?" The room was still. Then the judge spoke. "That's enough. Jericho's hands dropped to his sides. Chains clinked. The jury left. The room didn't move. Sadie pressed her cheek to Beck's shoulder. Harris blinked twice but wouldn't rub his eyes. When the jury returned, the foreman stood. An old rancher with a limp. "We find the defendant." He paused, looked at Jericho. "Not guilty." Gasps, then silence, then quiet sobs. Jericho didn't smile, didn't flinch. Just turned, knelt, and opened his arms. The kids ran. Sadie reached him first. She didn't say a word, just buried her face in his neck. Beck stood beside them, chin trembling. "We should get going," he said, voice thick. Jericho nodded. They walked out of the courthouse together. Dust rose with every step. The sky had softened just a little, like it too had waited all morning for justice. And as they passed the edge of the square, an old woman watching from her porch whispered to herself, "That man ain't who they said he was." Another replied from the shade, "No, he's better." Inside the courthouse, the judge sat back, removed his glasses. "Case closed," he murmured. But in his chest, something stayed open, something he hadn't felt since the war. A kind of hope, the kind only truth can leave behind. The wind came hard that morning, roaring down from the hills like it carried a warning on its back. Jericho stood at the fence line, coat-open revolver loose in his hand. The sky above Stray Creek Ranch was gray enough to blur where heaven ended and war began. Beck and Harris had finished their rounds before sunup. Sadie stayed in the kitchen, quiet, kneading dough with small fists that trembled each time thunder whispered in the distance. "Something's off," Beck muttered, watching the ridge with narrowed eyes. Jericho didn't answer. He already knew. The silence was too clean. The birds had stopped their gossip, and the pine trees stood like soldiers holding their breath. Then the dust rose. 6 riders. No pretense, no care to hide. At their center was the man Jericho used to call Brother Clayton Black. Blood of his blood. Dirt of his soul. Clayton didn't dismount when he reached the gate. He just stared past the wood, past the barbed wire, like he already saw them dead. "You built yourself a little orphan garden." Clayton called his voice thin, oily. "They bloom better when you break 'em first." You know that. Beck flinched. Jericho stepped forward slow. "You came a long way to die, brother." Clayton grinned. "I came to take back what you stole. You got no papers, no rights. You don't even got a wife to hang this dream on. Just kids too scared to run, and a name that's dirt in every county west of here." Jericho's jaw worked slow and tight. "These kids ain't yours. They weren't yours either," Clayton spat. "Till that little girl called you daddy. Hell, I nearly laughed myself off the saddle when I heard that. You touch her," Jericho said, voice low and steady. "I'll send you back to hell without a name." Behind him, Beck moved. Harris loaded the shotgun. Sadie didn't cry. She just stood at the door holding the stitched handkerchief like it was a piece of her mother's voice. Clayton's laughter was sharp. "You got soft, Jericho. Always thought you were better than me, didn't you? But we're the same. We came from nothing, and nothing's where you'll end." The first shot came from the hill. Not a warning, a kill shot, missed by inches. "Get down!" Jericho yelled, dragging Sadie inside just as bullets shattered the porch beam. Gunfire rained from the ridge. Wood cracked. Glass screamed. The boys moved like they'd trained for it because they had. Under Jericho's rough hands, they'd learned to fight for what mattered. They didn't shoot for glory. They shot to survive. Clayton kicked the door in. Jericho met him mid-step, fists first. No words left between them. They hit the floor hard. Old floorboards groaned. One was fighting to protect the other to possess, and both knew how to kill. "You ruined everything," Clayton hissed, bleeding from his mouth. "She was mine. That woman, she picked you." Jericho froze just a moment. That was it. The truth beneath the rage. "You sold her, didn't you?" Jericho whispered. "You sold her and she died walking toward me." Clayton grunted, shoved him off. "She was nothing but weight on my back." Jericho's knuckles split against his brother's face. "She was a mother." Outside, Beck screamed. One of the men was inside the barn. Harris took the shot hard and fast. Then silence. Jericho looked down at Clayton, bloodied and coughing. "I could kill you right now," Jericho said, voice shaking. Clayton smirked. "You won't." "No," Jericho whispered. "But she would." He stepped back. Sadie had come into the room. The revolver in her small hands was too big, but she held it like it mattered. Clayton stared at her, and for a moment, the snake turned human. "Sweetheart, Sadie lifted the gun, not shaking. "I'm not your anything," she said. Jericho took it from her gently. "You don't need to carry this baby." "Not yet." He turned to his brother. "You said we came from nothing," Jericho said. "But I've got a girl who calls me Daddy, a boy who plants flowers, a house full of breathin' souls." He cocked the hammer. "You're the only nothing left." Clayton looked up at the barrel. No smirk this time, but Jericho didn't pull the trigger. He walked him out the door, handed him to the sheriff, who'd arrived late but stayed true. The other riders were tied bleeding. Stray Creek Ranch still stood. That night Jericho didn't say much. He just sat by the hearth hands, black with ash eyes, blinking slower than usual. Sadie curled up next to him. "Is he really gone?" Jericho looked at the fire. "He's where he can't hurt you." There was a long pause. "I didn't shoot him," she whispered. Jericho looked at her. "I know. Was that wrong?" He shook his head, pulled the quilt up over her. "No, that was right." She looked at him sleepy, but awake enough to ask, "Does that make me like Mama?" Jericho smiled, faint and broken and whole. "It makes you strong, like her, like yourself." She nodded. Outside, the wind softened. The smell of gunpowder still clung to the porch, but the moon rose clear. In the morning, the kids would feed the hens, sweep the ashes, and rebuild the broken gate. But for now, there was warmth. There was breath. There was one man less in the world who believed children were property, and one more little girl who knew she had a father, not because of blood, but because he stayed. Jericho stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the boy hammer a loose hinge on the barn gate. Beck had grown, shoulders broader. The way he stood balanced quiet, like he'd figured out what mattered and let the rest go. The evening sun cast long gold lines across the pasture. Chickens scratched in peace. The youngest one, Sadie, was somewhere inside, humming to a dog-eared book. And Harris was stacking kindling in silence, a rhythm he favored when his heart needed quieting. "You're holding the nail too high," Jericho said, voice low but steady. Beck didn't flinch. "I like it that way." A pause hung between them, not cold, not warm. Just the kind of space that leaves room for old men and boys to find a language they both understand. Jericho walked closer, crouched beside him, and ran a finger along the edge of the wood. "Gate don't care how you feel. Just wants to hold strong when the wind comes." Beck nodded. "They'll fix it again." He drove the nail deeper. Inside the house, Sadie had spread a quilt over the table like it was Sunday, even though it was only Wednesday. She was arranging old tin cups like china. "Dinner's pretend," she whispered to Harris. "But the love's real." Harris cracked half a smile. "You sound like Martha." She straightened the napkin at Beck's spot. "She sounded like my mama." There was no response to that. Just a glance between them. The kind children make when they've buried more than they understand and carry it anyway. Jericho found the letter beneath the door after sunset, folded sharp, sealed with wax. No name, but the handwriting was pressed into the paper like teeth marks. He didn't have to open it to know it was from him. Clayton Black, his brother, or what was left of that word. He read it slowly by lamplight. "You think they're yours now, Jericho. Blood don't work that way. You stole them, like you stole everything. You'll never be a father, just a killer with a softer coat. He'll come for them soon. Let's see what kind of man you really are." Jericho folded the letter, hands tight enough to make it hum. Then he slid it into the fire, watched the edges curl and burn, and let the silence swallow him. That night the wind howled like it had teeth. Sadie crawled into Jericho's bed without asking. She didn't speak, just curled up like a kitten beside a lion and fell asleep with one hand resting on his chest. He didn't move her. The knock came before dawn, Not hurried, not hesitant. Just 3 slow raps like someone knocking on a casket to see if the dead would answer. Jericho opened the door without his gun drawn. That was the first mercy. Clayton stood there in a black coat, silver hair slicked back like a knife. He looked leaner than before, something hollowed out in him and filled with venom. "Well, ain't this homie?" Clayton said, eyes scanning the room. "Place smells like apple bread and bad decisions." Jericho stepped outside and closed the door behind him. "You're not coming in." Clayton smirked. "I thought I'd see the girl." "She looked like her mama, didn't she?" The words hit low. Deliberate. "You don't say her name?" "I'll say what I damn well." Jericho shoved him hard into the porch post, forearm against his throat. "I buried her." His voice cracked. "Not because of me. Because of you." Clayton gasped, then laughed. "You still think love changes who we are?" Jericho stepped back. "No, but pain does." Clayton adjusted his coat. "You're not a father, Jericho. You're just a haunted man playing house. And sooner or later, even ghosts have to pay rent." He turned to leave. "When I come next time, I'm not coming with letters." Jericho watched him ride off the dark horse, disappearing into fog like something born from it. That day, Jericho fixed the barn roof by hand. Alone. Each nail drove down like a memory being buried. Sadie brought him water. Beck asked if he wanted help. He said no to both. By supper, he hadn't spoken a word. Then Harris placed a small wooden box on the table. Quiet. No big gesture, just slid it over. Jericho raised an eyebrow. "What's this?" Beck answered for him. "We made it." Sadie drew the design. Harris carved it. I found the hinge. Jericho opened the box. Inside was a scrap of fabric stitched poorly, lovingly, with the word "Pa." "I ain't that," Jericho said, voice catching. Sadie looked up at him. "A father ain't a man who makes a child. He's the one who stays." Silence followed. Then Harris spoke softer than usual. "You've already done more than most men ever will." Jericho didn't cry, but his hands trembled when he closed the lid. That night, after the kids were asleep, Jericho sat on the porch, staring into the night like it owed him something. Martha's old shawl still hung on the peg. He ran his fingers over the fabric. "I didn't ask for this," he whispered. But then he looked back through the window at the flickering firelight dancing on their faces, the sound of Sadie's soft breathing, Beck's steady arm across the couch, Harris snoring just loud enough to be annoying, and he whispered again, "But maybe this is what I was always meant to find." He leaned back in the chair rifle across his knees, boots planted firm. The wind still howled, but now it sounded like a lullaby. He was ready if Clayton ever returned, but he also knew this truth now, something Martha once told him before she passed, something he'd refused to believe until tonight. You don't become a father when they call you one. You become a father the moment you act like it, even if no one's watching. And Jericho Blackaunt's, feared across 7 counties, sat on that porch in the dark, not as a legend, but simply, finally, as someone's dad. The wind shifted that morning. It wasn't sharp like winter's bite, nor warm like spring's promise. It carried dust, old hay, a trace of tobacco. Jericho stood on the front porch, coat unbuttoned, coffee cooling in his hand. The dog at his feet raised its ears but didn't bark. The land stretched quiet and vast, and the sky held no storm, only a hush as if the earth itself were listening. Inside, laughter spilled from the kitchen, Sadie's high and skipping, Harris more like a hum, and Beck's low and steady. Jericho let the sound reach him before stepping inside. The table was crowded with mismatched plates and hungry hands. The kids had grown, not just in inches, but in the way they looked each other in the eye now. No more flinching, no more sleeping with boots on. Sadie was teaching the new boy Jonas how to fold napkins into little animals. She said it made dinner feel like a holiday. Jonas didn't talk much yet, but when he smiled, it was crooked and real. Jericho ruffled his hair as he passed. "Pig or rabbit?" he asked. "Rabbit," Sadie answered for him. "Figures," he muttered, setting his mug on the stove. Later that day, Jericho saddled up and rode into town. Supplies were low, and winter would be back before long. The townsfolk had changed their ways around him. They nodded now. Some even smiled. He still didn't trust them much, but he'd seen worse in their shoes. At the general store, a woman with gray in her braid stepped forward with a small girl clinging to her skirts. "She's not mine," the woman said softly. "Her folks were burned out near Snake Ridge. I can't take her, but you might." Jericho stared at the child, dirt on her cheeks, one hand clutching a rag doll missing its head. She didn't cry. "What's her name?" he asked. The woman hesitated. "She hasn't said a word since the fire." Jericho knelt slowly, boots creaking. "I don't do gentle," he said, "but I don't leave kids in places that stop seeing them." The girl didn't answer, just looked at him long and level like she'd already seen too much. "She can ride," he said. "Tell the sheriff where she went." On the way back, the girl didn't speak, but when the horse crested the final hill and the house came into view, her hand clutched his coat just once. That night, the dining table grew tighter. A second pot of stew was needed. Beck passed the salt like it was ritual. Sadie told a story about a rooster that crowed at the moon. The new girl sat silent, doll still headless beside her plate. Jericho watched her. Not impatient, just present. After dinner, he found her out back barefoot in the dirt. "You don't owe us words," he said, voice low, almost like gravel shifting. She didn't turn round. "But if you ever want to give that doll a name," he added. "Well, listen." The girl looked up at the stars. "Her name was June," she whispered. Jericho nodded once. "Then June stays with you, and you stay with us." 2 weeks passed. Then came the letter. Folded, sealed with red wax, no return address. Harris found it in the post pile and laid it on Jericho's desk like a viper. Jericho read it once. Then again. "I know what you're building out there, a zoo of misfits, the ones no one else wants. You're not saving them, Jericho. You're making them depend on a man who still runs from his own blood." Signed, Elijah Black. Jericho's jaw set like stone. He didn't say a word to the kids. That night he rode out alone. He found Elijah at an abandoned chapel west of Farridge. The man was leaning against a stone wall, hair thinner but eyes still sharp. "You always did like to ruin what couldn't be owned," Elijah said, tossing a match to light his pipe. Jericho didn't answer. "You think taking in orphans makes you holy?" Elijah sneered. "They're broken things, just like you, just like your mother was." Jericho stepped closer. "Don't speak her name. She begged you no, for me to keep you, said you had your father's soul. She was right." He spat, cold and dangerous. Jericho's hand didn't move toward the gun. Instead, he said, "You're not angry because I left. You're angry because I didn't become you." Elijah laughed bitter and dry. "I'm angry because you let him call you Daddy." Jericho turned to leave. "I didn't let them. They chose to." Back home, the house was warm. Jonas was carving a wooden fox with Sadie. Harris was repairing a squeaky door with Beck. The girl, her name now known as Clara, was sleeping on the couch, June in her arms. Jericho stood in the doorway, just watching. He didn't need to say it. This wasn't a zoo. It was a house of strays who'd stopped running. That night, Jericho took an old horseshoe from the barn and hammered it above the front door. Harris asked, "You believe in luck?" Now, Jericho shook his head. "No, but I believe in keeping things from falling apart." He didn't need a chapel. He didn't need forgiveness. He just needed this place to hold. And for the first time it did. The storm had passed, but the land still wore its scars. Rain dripped from the edge of the porch roof like an old clock ticking slower with age. Jericho Black sat in his worn wooden chair, one boot planted firm on the rail, the other resting on his knee. His revolver was beside him, but he hadn't touched it in days. Not since the boy called Jonas had fallen asleep on his chest. Inside, the laughter had settled. Milo was showing Polly how to braid corn husks, and Harris, quiet, steady Harris, was carving a little horse from pine for the newest boy, Ben. The cabin no longer echoed like it used to. It absorbed sound, now held it gently like it had finally become what it was always meant to be. Jericho took a sip from the tin mug in his hand. The coffee was cold, bitter. He didn't mind. He'd learned to stomach worse. From the edge of the woods a soft creak came. Not a bird, not the wind. His eyes flicked sideways. A child was standing just beyond the gate. A boy, no shoes. Coat hanging too big from bony shoulders. In his hands he clutched something like a sack or blanket wrapped tight against his chest. His face was blotched from crying, but the tears had dried. What was left behind wasn't fear. It was something quieter, hungrier. Jericho stood slowly. He stepped down the porch steps, boots sinking into the wet earth. The boy didn't move. He knelt when he reached the child, not too close. Just near enough for their eyes to meet. "Where'd you come from?" Jericho asked, voice even. The boy hesitated. "Don't know the name," he whispered. "A farm. They left when it burned." Jericho's fingers curled slightly. The boy looked down at the bundle in his arms. This was my sister." His voice cracked like an old board snapping. Jericho said nothing. He didn't reach out, didn't touch the child. Not yet. The boy looked back up. "You the one they talk about?" he asked. The cowboy with the broken face and the good heart. Jericho half huffed. "That what they call me now?" The boy nodded, serious. "The lady at the mission said if I could find the man with gray in his beard and a scar on his lip, I'd be safe." There was a long silence. Then, like smoke curling from a forgotten fire, the boy whispered, "Are you my daddy now?" Jericho didn't flinch, but something in his eyes gave way. A tremor, not in the hands, not in the jaw, but behind the gaze, like a door opening so quietly no one would hear it but him. He stood, wiped a bit of mud from his coat sleeve, and said, "What's your name, son?" The boy swallowed. "Caleb." "Well, Caleb," Jericho said, looking out toward the road, "this here's Stray Creek Ranch. Ain't no one gets turned away." He offered a hand. The boy stared at it, then reached out, but not just to shake. He held it, like something that might vanish if he let go. That night the fire burned low and steady. The storm had carried away the leaves from the old elm by the fence, and the stars were brighter than they'd been in weeks. Jericho sat at the kitchen table. In front of him, an old letter creased yellowed. He hadn't opened it in 10 years. He didn't need to. He remembered every word. "If you ever change, if the world softens you even just a little, promise me you'll be the kind of man a child can run to. You don't have to be good, Jericho. Just be safe. Just be true. Annabelle." He folded the letter, placed it back in the drawer with the broken compass and the locket no one ever saw him touch. Behind him, the screen door creaked. "You still up?" Harris asked. Jericho didn't turn. Couldn't sleep. Harris stepped inside the floor, creaking under his weight. "That boy," he said, "the new one. What about him?" Harris paused. "He looks at you the way Sadie used to, like you're not a man, like you're a promise." Jericho let the words hang, let them soak in. Then he nodded. Just once. The next morning the dog barked once low and long. Not in warning, in welcome. Caleb was sitting on the porch, wrapped in the same old blanket. Jericho stepped out, boots, tied hat in hand. "Come with me," he said. They walked to the edge of the pasture where the tree stood, a young sycamore, thin but growing. Underneath it a wooden sign for the ones who never got to be children. Jericho knelt. "This tree," he said, "is for beginnings." Caleb looked up at him. "Is this where you started?" Jericho stared at the horizon. "No," he said, "but it's where I stopped running." Caleb was quiet for a moment, then asked again, "So are you my daddy now?" Jericho looked down at the boy, and this time he didn't speak right away. He bent down, tucked the blanket tighter around Caleb's small shoulders, and said, real low, "I reckon we can start with breakfast." Caleb smiled. And Jericho, for the first time in years, smiled too. Not because everything was fixed, but because someone had asked to stay, and he had said yes.